My younger brother, Ethan, 22, blew my money on his lavish party and hired guards to keep me out. When I showed up regardless, he declared I wasn't family. Hey Reddit, I'm a 25-year-old guy who's learned the hard way what happens when you give too much for too long and ask for basic respect. You get slapped down by your own kin. This isn't a pity party. It's me laying it all bare after being treated like a cash machine, while Ethan was praised for merely existing. Let me give you some background so you don't think I'm just exaggerating. My family's played favorites since Ethan could point at a shiny new PlayStation and get it. I was the responsible one, code for do everything, get nothing. When I hit 18, my parents charged me $350 a month to stay in my childhood bedroom. Same creaky bed, same faded posters from when I was 12, pay up or get out. So I paid, working part-time at an auto shop while finishing school. Ethan turned 18. They handed him my old room, no charge. I even bought him a flat-screen TV, thinking he was finding his path. His path? Sleeping till noon and streaming Call of Duty for hours. Once I came home to visit and found him in my jacket, missing since Christmas. I said, "That's mine." He shrugged, "You don't live here anymore?" I looked at Mom. She said, "Don't leave things behind if they matter." That was just life as usual. At 21, I moved out, got a steady logistics job, lived frugally, and saved hard. As soon as I was stable, my parents started calling for help. Groceries, utilities, car fixes, always with Ethan struggling. Mom would guilt trip me. "We supported you, now it's your turn." So, like a fool, I helped. I set up auto payments for Ethan's $750 monthly rent for 3 years and shelled out over $3,000 per semester for his college books and tuition. Never asked for repayment. I thought I was doing good. Then came his graduation bash. It started with photos flooding the family group chat, long tables, balloons, a massive cake saying, "Congrats, Ethan," in gold icing. They even rented a party tent. No invite, no text, just pictures, no mention of the guy footing the bills. I texted Mom. "Where's the party?" She replied, "Brook Hill, where we had Uncle Mark's anniversary." No sorry, no oops, just cold facts. I figured it was a mix-up. Maybe they thought I was busy. I put on a decent shirt, jeans without holes, drove 45 minutes, and pulled up to a house with a dozen cars parked. Uncle Tom's truck, Cousin Nate's sedan, Dad's van, everyone but me. I walked up only to be stopped by 2 hired security guards. One said, "Private event." I said, "I'm his brother." The guy eyed me like I crawled out of a ditch. The other checked my name, walked off, and came back with Ethan, Mom, and Dad. Ethan looked like he'd stepped out of a cologne ad. Sharp clothes, slick hair, gold necklace, phone in hand like I was interrupting his vibe. He stared and said, "He doesn't belong here." Dead serious. I laughed, thinking it was a joke. Then Dad piped up, "You showed up after what you said?" I blinked. I hadn't said anything. Mom tried to smooth it over. "Louis, we just wanted a nice day, no issues." I stared. "I pay his rent, his tuition, and I'm the issue." Ethan scoffed. "You didn't do that for me, you just wanted to feel big." I looked him in the eye. "You're welcome." Then I turned and left. Dad called after me, "Maybe ask if you're invited next time." I drove home, no stops, no food, nothing. Got to my apartment, kicked off my shoes, sat on my beat-up couch and stared at the wall. Then I grabbed my phone and texted Ethan. "Starting next month, you're covering your own rent. Good luck." Sent, didn't wait for a reply. 2 hours later, a knock. It was Ethan, still in his party outfit, eyes red like he hadn't slept. "Please don't do this," he said. "I can't afford it, you know that." I stood silent, letting him sweat. For once, I didn't budge. He tried his usual charm. "It's been rough, man. Exams, work, I barely sleep." I cut in. "Yeah, I saw your Instagram. Late-night burgers, that lake trip, the random Vegas weekend. Sounds tough." He mumbled, no good comeback. I said, "I paid your rent every month, covered your school, filled Mom's fridge when she called." "Who did that?" He muttered, "You did." Then I asked, "Why weren't Grandma and Grandpa at the party?" His face twitched. "They weren't invited." "By who?" "Mom. She said they bring up old stuff. Grandpa talks too much, Grandma's too pushy." I said, "You mean the guy who gave Dad the house down payment and the woman who raised you while Mom went back to school?" He looked down. "You didn't stop her." He stood, mumbled, "Whatever, man," and left. An hour later, Grandma called. "We heard what happened. We weren't invited either. Your brother said some nasty things. We're proud of you. We'll swing by tomorrow with coffee." I smiled for the first time that week. Next morning, 10:45 sharp, their silver sedan pulled up. Grandma stepped out in a floral blouse holding a pink bakery box. Grandpa wore his old Navy cap that Dad hates. They walked in like they'd been visiting forever. "You owe them nothing," Grandma said. "You've done enough," Grandpa grunted. You're the only one in this family who's ever done anything real. We ate muffins, drank coffee, no drama, no digs. Just a morning that felt more like family than the last decade. After they left, I sat with my coffee feeling something shift. Not anger, not revenge, just clarity. I was done begging for respect. At noon, I called Dad. He answered, all cheery. Hey son, you okay? I said. Grandma and Grandpa brought muffins. They weren't at the party either. Silence. Yeah, not enough space, he said. You know how Grandpa gets. I cut in. I'm done paying Ethan's bills. No rent, no tuition, nothing. Another pause, then the guilt voice. Louis, you're not struggling, no house, no kids, you're good with money. I said, so because I didn't mess up, I owe the guy who did. He went quiet. I'll tell Mom myself, I added and hung up. 20 minutes later, another knock. Not Ethan, my cousin Sarah, holding a plastic container, avoiding eye contact. Can I come in? She asked, then walked in. She sat, glanced around like my place was a charity case and said, I didn't know they'd do that to you. Ethan said that crap and I laughed, not because I agreed, just didn't know what to do. I stayed silent. She said, I'm moving out. Told Aunt Linda I'm done with the family drama. Sarah, the quiet cousin, got into a grad program in Oregon. She showed me her phone, Ethan's group chat, where I was still added. His message. Told you he'd show up. Thinks he's one of us, pays my bills, gets treated like trash, lol. I handed it back. No shock, just proof. I'm telling you so you know who they're defending, she said. I nodded. Thanks. Then I posted the screenshot in the family group chat, no caption, just the raw truth. Let them sit with it. The chat went dead. 15 minutes, nothing. Aunt Ellen left the group, no words. 5 more minutes, Uncle Dan sent a thumbs-up emoji. Mom read it, no reply. Dad didn't open it. Ethan went silent. Nobody defended him. Nobody defended me either. Aunt Linda texted privately. Maybe this wasn't the way to handle it, I replied. Neither was letting him trash me while I paid his rent. 10 minutes later, my parents' van pulled into my lot. Dad in work jeans, Mom with a paper bag. They knocked after hesitating. I opened the door. We need to talk, Dad said. They walked in, eyeing my place like it was new. Mom handed me the bag, brought lunch. I set it down, untouched. Dad said, you embarrassed your brother. I said, you embarrassed yourselves. Mom said, he's hurt. I said, so was I, you let him call me nothing. Dad said, he was venting. I said, I was paying. They didn't argue that. Mom said, we can't cover his rent. I said, then he moves home. She said, he says it's toxic there. I didn't respond. Dad leaned in. Just help till he gets a job. I said, he had one. Quit because it was stressful, like working 50 hours and getting spit on wasn't. They looked away. Dad said, a loan. I said, no, you said you'd repay me 3 years ago. They stood, Mom said, after all we did for you. I said, yeah, I remember the rent bill at 18. They left without another word. That night, Sarah texted another screenshot. Ethan in a new group chat. He's overreacting, always playing victim. Let him post what he wants, nobody cares. Half the cousins were in it, some had left the main family chat. Sarah posted it there. No replies. The next day, Ethan texted me. Hope you're happy you ruined everything. I didn't answer. That afternoon, Grandma called. Your parents know you're cutting them off. They want an apology. I said, I'm not. Grandpa called later, told me to check my mail. An envelope with two $50 bills and a note. Nobody invited us to birthdays either. 3 days later, Ethan's apartment had an eviction notice. Sarah sent a photo of it on his door. Aunt Linda called, he needs help. I said, he needs to fix it. She said, he's your brother. I said, he's not my problem. She hung up. Next morning, my landlord said someone called, pretending to be me, asking about my lease. It was Ethan. I filed a police report. That night, I moved my savings to a new account, changed all passwords. A text from an unknown number. Hope you like being alone forever. I blocked it. Grandma dropped off muffins. You don't need to keep explaining yourself, she said. I'm not. I'm done being a doormat for people who don't see me as family. She nodded and left. By the weekend, half the family cut me off. The other half sent quiet texts. You did right, but never said it publicly. I left the family group chat for good. The next week, Ethan started a GoFundMe, trying to stay afloat after a setback. 3 donations, none from family. I reported it for false info. It was removed. Mom texted, you made your point. I replied, you made yours. That Sunday, Uncle Dan stopped by, handed me an envelope with a note. Some of us always knew. We just didn't say it. No cash, didn't need it. Monday, an old neighbor said Ethan was back home, whining I'd torn the family apart over a party. I sent him the screenshot. He read it, no reply. Sarah tagged me in a post. Sometimes you don't need revenge, just stop giving free passes. She shared a photo of the party I wasn't invited to. A stranger commented, That guy who paid for everything and got shut out. Savage, Sarah replied. That's my cousin. He finally stood up. 2 days later, Ethan called from a new number. I messed up, okay? I said, yep. He said, it was a joke. I said, you're evicted. Still funny. Silence. Can I crash at your place? No, I'm your brother. You told security I wasn't. I hung up. Mom sent a group text. Ethan's struggling. We need family support. Everyone makes mistakes. Aunt Linda added, publicly shaming blood isn't how we fix things. Sarah replied, neither is mocking the guy who paid your bills. Uncle Dan left the chat. Cousin Nate DM'd, bold move. About time. I didn't reply. That night Dad called, apologize, you blew this up. I said, he bragged publicly. I showed proof. He said, you're not acting like family. I said, you stopped treating me like family years ago. He hung up. Next morning, HR called. An anonymous ethics complaint about financial coercion traced to Ethan's apartment. I filed another police report, froze my credit, closed social media. Sarah texted. He says you turned grandma against him. I said, she was never on his side. Later, Sarah shared a screenshot of the family chat's exit screen. Sometimes you cut ties to stop bleeding. I didn't like or repost, just moved on. Saturday, a neighbor texted a photo of my parents in his driveway, clearing my name. I didn't respond. An hour later, a certified letter from them. Louis, your actions shock us. Families forgive, not exile. We're heartbroken. You chose revenge over healing. I wrote on it. You cared when I stopped paying, and mailed it back. 3 days later, Ethan started another GoFundMe. Same story, $1,200 goal, 2 donations, one from a friend, one from a burner I recognized from our old Netflix. I reported it, it was gone. Thursday, Grandma brought muffins. They're trying pity now? I said, yeah. She handed me a note in Grandpa's handwriting. A man who finds peace doesn't trade it for chaos. I taped it by my sink. HR followed up. Ethan's case closed, charges pending. He ignored the notice. Uncle Dan called. He blames everyone but himself. I said, let him. Sarah texted. He's in your old room saying you overreacted. I said, he knows I didn't. 2 days later, a package with no return address. My stolen high school jacket, washed, no note. I donated it. Aunt Linda left a voicemail. Your parents are wrecked. Ethan's not eating. You've made your point. Let it go. I deleted it. Tuesday, Sarah sent a photo of her grad school acceptance. Some of us move forward, Grandma commented. Some finally stood tall enough to grow. Ethan texted. Thanks for ruining my life. I deleted it. No reply. A week later, Grandma said Ethan was in the basement, sulking, blaming everyone but the mirror. Sarah shared a screenshot of Ethan in the cousins' chat. Louis should have had my back. 3 cousins left silently. Uncle Dan offered to change my locks. I'd already done it. Friday, a letter with no return address. A photo of me at graduation, selfish, scrawled in red. I added it to the police file. Monday, the company's legal team said Ethan sent 3 fake whistleblower tips traced to his building. I agreed to testify. He tore up the papers in front of Dad, who told him to clean the garage. Sarah moved out, no fuss, left a note on the fridge. Thanks for showing me self-respect isn't betrayal. She texted later, new apartment, new job, new life. We didn't mention Ethan. Another GoFundMe popped up. Family abandoned me, I'm not perfect, need a fresh start. 2 donations, then gone, someone else reported it. I grabbed Grandpa's toolbox from the old house, no call, no knock. Ethan watched from the window, said nothing. Sarah sent a screenshot of his new post. The closest ones cut you deepest. No replies. Grandma dropped off leftovers and a tin box from Uncle Mark. A note from years ago. One kid does everything right and still gets treated like an outsider. Don't stay stuck, drop the guilt. I pinned it by my rent receipt. Legal team emailed, case closed, cease and desist issued. I replied, all debts settled. That night, I blocked Ethan, my parents, and Aunt Linda's numbers. I cooked, ate, and didn't think about who was missing. It was done. 6 months later, things moved fast. Got a raise, then a promotion. Moved to a better place, quieter, no guilt in the walls. Didn't post about it, just settled in. Grandma helped with curtains, left a coffee maker. No more weak mornings. The company memo confirmed the harassment case was dropped. I filed the memo away. Saw Ethan by chance at a tire shop, pushing carts, checking treads. I went for a rotation, he didn't know my car. As I paid, he saw me, froze. I took my keys and left. Sarah texted. He said you looked smug. She got a full ride to a grad program in Texas, staying with a friend till she settles. You showed me I could avoid becoming them, she said. I replied, you did it yourself. Parents called in January, new numbers, no voicemails. Uncle Dan said they claimed I abandoned them. I said, I escaped. In March, my old teacher, Mr. Carter, emailed. Saw your name in an alumni piece. Glad someone turned out solid. I said, no more side gigs, building something now. He sent a thumbs up. Started my logistics consulting business in April, private contracts, steady flow. Grandma gave me the startup cash. You're the only one who shows up when it matters. Not for parties, but hospital runs, roof fixes, real stuff. Ethan's GoFundMes kept appearing, same lies, flagged in days. Aunt Linda had a fit after an HOA fine for yelling on her porch. New crusade, I guess. Sarah visited before Texas, brought a framed screenshot of the chat that started it all. Receipt 1. It's by my desk. Parents sent a birthday note, cold and formal. Sorry you were hurt, hope you'll release your anger and rejoin us. I shredded it, no drama. Checked the old house, same worn siding, overgrown grass, broken lights. Kept driving. Sarah sent a photo the day she left, 1 bag, 1 ticket. Leaving the noise. I sent a check mark. Business grew, hired a part-time assistant, a sharp vocational student, paid on time, no complaints. Ethan lost his tire job, 3 no-shows. Manager told Grandma he just quit. Thank you for watching my story. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and press the bell icon. Stay tuned for more real-life stories, get more experiences.